Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sophia Wardell, and today we have a very special guest, fantasy and indie author Daze Evander. Daze Evander is a storyteller known for her fictional, character-driven series focused on otherworldly survival and discovery. In 2022, she founded Faction Realm Press, an independent self-publishing imprint, to share her stories globally. Thanks for joining us today, Daze.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Sure, we're so glad to have you. And today I want to discuss publishing as a self-published indie author with you. What motivated you to create your own imprint, Faction Realm Press, and how has that journey been since founding it in 2022?
So I debuted as an author in 2020, and when I first started self-publishing, I went through Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing and put out my first two books that way. So that was 2020 through 2021. And then in 2022, I decided to create my own imprint. And I did so ultimately to have that creative control over the series going forward and building out my world. It really appealed to me to become my own self-publisher and put my name on the work as a whole. And so I just felt like taking that route felt like the best choice for me. Also because I really value, small businesses in indie bookstores, and I wanted that option to be able to be in bookstores and to share my stories globally. And getting that global reach with opening up my imprint was really the driving factor behind establishing Faction Realm Press.
Very interesting. So you found that indie authors most of the time get a lot more options when it comes to local bookstores.
Yes, I feel like there's a lot of flexibility and the creative control and options that you have when you have your own imprint. And I definitely encourage other indie authors to take a similar route. It's definitely rewarding and the hard work does pay off. And it's so much fun to, truly create your own world that, you can fully explore and you can reach all kinds of people across the globe with.
Interesting. Now, on that note, what would you recommend to self-publishing, seeking, and indie authors that are kind of transitioning to be able to manage their brand and just have creative control effectively if they haven't, say, done it before, like when you had to transition from, owning kind of everything and that being your responsibility?
Yeah, I would say that organization is key for those that are managing their brand and establishing their own self-publishing imprint. I personally use an agenda that I color code and I list all of the things I need to stay on top of by priority and anything time sensitive. And so I would highly encourage others to use an agenda as much as possible and keeping your files organized, because there's so much that goes into being an author and the publisher at the same time. So I would definitely encourage others to focus on organization as much as they can, because that has helped me a lot. And also keeping an archive of all of your old work and having that archive, to lean back on is really helpful. But definitely planning ahead. I would say planning ahead with an agenda and, keeping track of all your major assignments, all of your commissions, bookstore orders, everything like that. There is a lot to stay on top of, but for those who are really passionate about this, and I would say that the hard work will pay off, and it does take a lot of time though. It does take a lot of time.
Yeah, I understand that. And I love that you kind of touched on organization being a main aspect, especially since you're juggling multiple roles. And speaking of the multiple roles, how could an author balance being a publisher and then also still, allowing themselves the time to write and to be a creative?
Yeah, that's definitely a day-to-day thing that you'll be encountering. I would just say that balance is key. So as much as you can, make sure that you still give yourself that time to go be in your creative space and step away from emails and step away from the publishing side of things, but also, to just structure your time as much as possible. But to validate and to own your truth in both roles and make sure that there's a kind of like a work-life balance. I would say that for this is that I've had to figure out how to still get to be creative and feel as though that it's not a job, but then at the same time that it is a job. And so it's balancing those two things, but also seeing that it's a symbiotic relationship, that they both can help one another.
And how did you approach marketing your debut and subsequent novels, and what strategies helped you build a global audience?
So I have found that social media has been very helpful for me in reaching others. The first couple years, I didn't use it much, but as of lately, I am quite active on Instagram and running ads on there. But also attending events has been one of the most helpful ways to reach more people is word of mouth. So going to book signings and book clubs and attending conventions and being a vendor with your books at places, that's one of the best ways to start reaching more people, is that face-to-face connections as well. So I would highly encourage other authors to also take that route.
Well, Daze, thank you so much. That was wonderful insight on publishing as a self-published indie author.
Thank you.
Lastly, where can our listeners find and connect with you?
So I'm currently on Instagram at Daze Evander, and then my website is factionrealmpress.com. And those are currently my two avenues where you can find me online.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you everyone for tuning into today's interview with fantasy indie author Daze Evander. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.